Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we're going to be talking about the Tier 8 Premium American Battlecruiser, the Constellation, which is a very neat ship if you don't know. And the title of the video should be something along the lines of, this is why paper ships are neat, paper ships are cool, something like that. Because the Constellation, well, technically there's two Constellation hulls on my team. The Constellation you see here, and then the Lexington-class aircraft carrier. The Constellation is what would have become of the Lexington-class Battlecruiser if they were not converted into aircraft carriers, which is a very cool thing about World of Warships. I've said this before a couple of times when discussing paper ships, that we do get to see some what-if ships come to life and get to play with them and interact with them in the game. And that's what's very cool about paper ships. A lot of players I know, they they do lament any introduction of any paper ship into the game, but when we get ships like this, it's pretty neat. It's not just the Constellation. There's several other ships that were designed, and a lot of those ships never would have seen the light of day one way or another. But since World of Warships isn't real life, we can make that happen in the game. It's very cool to see. So, what is the Constellation, and how does it play in game? So, the Constellation we have in game is, from my understanding and from the way that the ship is kitted out and such, a World War II era refit of the Lexington-class battle cruisers. Now, if you go look at some artwork of what the Lexington class would have looked like, this doesn't look like it at all because of how early they were designed. They were designed far before World War II kicked off, and the Constellation is the World War II refit of those ships. It looks very similar in terms of if you've seen the California was a Tennessee-class battleship. That was a World War I era battleship that was refitted during World War II with the modern American 5-inch secondary turrets, the modern-looking superstructure, so forth and so on. Same treatment has been given here to the Constellation. You can tell, if you look up and down her side, she does have the modern American 5-inch guns. In her main battery guns, she has 8 16-inch guns. They are essentially the Colorado's guns. But this, and it's a fair comparison to compare the ship to the Colorado, because this is essentially a Colorado that can move very quickly. If you play the Colorado, you know she's not exactly the zippiest ship. She's very slow for a tier, 20 knot top speed at tier 7. Her guns are very nice, though, having 16-inch guns at tier 7, 8 of them too. 8 fairly accurate 16-inch guns as well at tier 7. Now, the Constellation is a tier 8 ship with 16-inch guns, with Colorado's 16-inch guns. So they are decent for its tier, but they're no North Carolina in terms of their setup. But they still hit just fine. They are pretty darn accurate for tier 8. And add to the fact that the Constellation is a very nimble ship at tier 8. Since it is a battle cruiser, you got a nice combo here in terms of firepower and maneuverability. Now, in order to get that maneuverability, you do have to give up a fair amount of protection. This is a battle cruiser after all. So her bow and stern can be overmatched by, well, the Richelieu there, for starters. So pretty much every battleship you can see at tier 8 can overmatch your bow because of the 25mm bow. If you can't tell, the ship is kind of large. So there's a lot of ship for the enemy team to shoot at. And when it does connect, if it's a battleship at tier 8, unless it's got smaller than 15-inch guns, it's probably going to overmatch your armor. So yeah, it's not fantastic there, but the ship is definitely maneuverable enough to where you can dance around quite a lot and avoid a lot of fire, like you'll see me do in this match right now. Speaking of this match right now, I am on the eastern flank. There's an Eintracht and the Richelieu over here. Speaking of overmatching my armor, there you go. And I am fairly far up. It's an easy mistake to make if you've been playing a lot of the slower American battleships. And in fact, I see this a lot with players that just got to the North Carolina. With the other slower American battleships, you can just slam the throttle down all the way and forget about it because you're only going to go 20 knots, and you need to go at least 20 knots when playing any up-tiered match in something like the Colorado, New Mexico, whatever. And ooh, big hit there from the Richelieu on me. But in addition to being quite maneuverable and having pretty darn good guns, the ship does also get radar, which is a actual oddity amongst battleships. In terms of battleships right now, it's just the Constellation and the Borodino that get radar. Now, the Borodino has a 12-kilometer Soviet radar. The Constellation gets a 10-kilometer American radar. So that's very nice when you have to deal with destroyers and such destroyers that smoke up in front of you. You can pop the radar and, kind of cause them to panic a little bit. It's always a fun thing to do because most destroyers just assume that battleships don't have radar. But it looks like the future that may be changing here. And who knows how long. I mean, first we got the Constellation, then the Borodino. Who knows what's next? And these are both battle cruisers too. The Borodino's a battle cruiser, Constellation's a battle cruiser. Might be their line's gimmicks. Who knows? Also, you do get torpedoes. That's right. You get 9.2-kilometer torpedoes on the Constellation. They're mounted in the rear, so you get some pretty interesting torpedo angles out of it. But hey, you got them. They're great in a brawling situation. Or if you just want to throw some down a channel that you think an enemy ship might be pushing down. So you got a pretty nice set of characteristics and skills and gimmicks with the Constellation here. And she is a Tier 8 premium ship. She's still available for purchase. Would I buy her outright? I mean, if you like battle cruisers, if you're playing the German battle cruisers and you like the way that they feel, Constellation feels pretty similar to that in terms of its maneuverability and its armor layout. A little bit weaker on the armor side of things, however. And of course, the secondaries aren't anywhere near as good as the German battle cruisers. But when the Constellation first came out, I said, hey, if this is what battle cruisers are going to feel like in the future, very maneuverable, but they don't have as good of armor as battleships, but better than most of the cruisers at their tier, I think they got the formula down quite well. And that's what they did with the German battle cruisers as well. Speaking of cruisers, hello Eintracht. Showing you broadside. I think I got the guns dialed in here when I was playing the game. And then, boop! Where's my dev strike? Double Citadel to the Eintracht. Goodbye, Eintracht. Yeah, I was playing this game fairly early in the morning. It was the first time I'd played Constellation in a while. Just thought I'd pick her back up. And I had this match, which is a very interesting match. So this is, of course, standard battle, tier 8 match. Double CV game. Not a really big fan of those, especially when it's two tier 8 CVs, but in this case it's a tier 8 and tier 6 CV on both sides. I do find it weird that, like, at tier 6, they allow double CV matches when, like, most, like, tier 6 and below ships don't really have that great of AA. Because a lot of tier 6 ships, you still have post-World War I or interwar era ships before CVs really became widespread. I think that's weird. Like, double tier 10 CVs would be a pain, but at least at tier 10, you got ships like Austin, Minotaur, Worcester, Des Moines, Salem that can just give those CV planes the middle finger, but then down here you don't. And I'm not saying they need to allow double tier 10 CVs. They don't, because that would be hell, but it's just a weird line of thought for me. And goodbye Megami there too, with 4 overpins and 1 pin. That's the thing, too, you'll see with the Constellation. You do get a lot of overpins on cruisers because 16-inch guns. 16-inch guns by tier 6 standards. They're decently large for that tier. Of course, you're getting a lot of larger caliber guns at higher tier now, but still, they're pretty decently large caliber guns for that tier, and you can expect a lot of overpins still. So, at this stage in the match, we're only down 3 ships. The enemy team only has 5 ships left. One of them is an Atlanta that you can sneeze on and delete. One of them is this Richelieu that's been just kind of bullying me this whole match, or has been preoccupied with me mostly for this entire match. They have an Andrea Doria, and they're implacable, and Ranger left alive. So at this point, I'm like, screw it. The match is almost over. Let's go ahead and bull rush this Richelieu, because why not? I mean, I want a little bit more damage before this game ends. I'm enjoying the Constellation. And, 50,000 damage in the Constellation is a pretty low number. And then the Andrea Doria sinks the U-69. No big there. Submarines are really weak right now if you haven't played them recently. Here comes the Implacable, too. Oh, and the Constellation AA is pretty decent. It is, of course, again, a World War II refit of the... Ooh, Eintracht's down there to 94 health. It's a World War II refit of the Lexington class, so the AA got bumped up as well. Has plenty of Bofors on her. Richelieu's coming in at me, and I should have waited a little bit longer there for him to turn to fire that shot. I think I'm pinned. I hit his turn. I think I pinned the superstructure there for 2k. Here comes the enemy Ranger. And of course, since it's a tier 6 CV facing off against tier 8 American AA, naturally I only shoot down 1 plane. Of course. But yeah, that drop is not going to really present much threat to my Constellation there. Here I'm aiming for the Richelieu's turrets, trying to knock them out. Don't aim low enough. Look at all the planes swarming this Richelieu too. Richelieu's got good AA. I can't imagine what that guy felt like just then. But I wound up hitting his superstructure instead of his turrets. So there you go. Hits me in my nose. For 7k, I pop my repair party, throw my rudder hard over to the right, get my torpedoes lined up on him. I'm waiting to get around to his side and shove these torpedoes into his hull. But also, too, I got worried about his guns about to be reloaded, so I just shoot him the superstructure, finish him off for 3k. Because at that range, he probably would have obliterated my Constellation, because the Citadel isn't very hard to get at on the Constellation. It's not below the waterline, it's not turtleback. So that would have been very bad for me right then. So the Ranger is baptizing me with fire. Oh, there we go. He flew through a flat cloud of mine. There goes all of his planes. Lands down to 2k health. Then gets the Oland. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, surely the Eintracht will be able to get the Atlanta there with his strike as long as he doesn't fire. And lo and behold, the man is firing AP at the Atlanta, and the Atlanta finishes him off. And the Eintracht did not get the Atlanta with his airstrike. So that's a bit disappointing. If you notice, too, now we're getting very close in terms of ships left on either side. And here comes Lexington to get the Atlanta, but again, it's an Atlanta, has a limited DFA, has really good AA, so I just throw some shells in his general direction to make sure he dies. He does. And Andrea Doria got our Merker too. That's not that good now, is it? Here comes the Implacable as well, but Ranger, for some reason, the enemy Ranger is bull rushing me. I don't know why he's doing this. One would think he'd be heading toward J1, which would be smart. He'd be hiding from myself and my team. Makes some shots at his nose, goes straight through him, get a cool 21,000 damage there off of the Ranger. Now, if you notice too, Andrea Doria is pushing our home cap. And the Lexington's there, and the Talon, the Mutsu, and the Ryujo understandably, but our surface ships have left him behind to pretty much just be at the whim of the Andrea Doria, the tier 7 Italian battleship. And there goes the Ranger, and there's my Kraken Unleashed. There's the Implacable running away for his life, and the Andrea Doria has sap, which is very good for chunking very lightly armored targets, light aircraft carriers. If you guys notice too, the Talon's at 2,000 health. Again, the Andrea Doria has sap, which is more than capable of chunking a cruiser for a mere 2,000 damage. There's AA expert there, which means I shot down 35 planes. I'm still shooting down planes. So yeah, there's Talon. No, I'm sorry, Talon's at 600 health. My bad. And now the Andrea Doria is in our cap with just the Lexington there, within gun range, well within gun range of the Andrea Doria. So now this has gone from a game to where we had a easy 5-ship lead to now where they're closing the gap quite rapidly. And I meant to pop my fighter there, not my radar. There's no DDs left alive on the enemy team to radar, so just just giving the radar operators a nice little workout. So the Andrea Doria is, I believe, switching between taking pot shots at the Talon and the Lexington. And if you look at the minimap, our Mutsu has turned around to engage the Andrea Doria. Now the Mutsu is the tier 6 premium Japanese battleship, which has 16-inch guns, which can overmatch the bow of the Andrea Doria. So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Mutsu, he'll just have to shove a couple of shells into the bow of the Doria, and that'll be in the end of the Doria. If it was only that easy. She might have noticed some HE getting thrown at the Andrea Doria. You might assume that's the Talon. Some of it is the Talon. But the other salvo of HE, that one right there, is the Mutsu. The Mutsu is spamming HE at the Doria. I didn't notice this at the time. I just thought it was the Talon. And I'm sitting here waiting for the Andrea Doria to finish turning broadside so I can get my full broadside on her. And right there, the Doria just finished off the Talon. So I give the Doria my full broadside, because I too have 16-inch guns that can overmatch the bow of the Doria. But I also have this Implacable to deal with. Now, get my bow towing toward him. Naturally, I hit the torpedo protection on the Andrea Doria. And the Doria sinks the Lexington. So now it's myself, that HE spamming Mutsu, the Ryujo against the Implacable and the Doria, who's already in her cap. And the Mutsu isn't the most accurate battleship because, of course, 16-inch guns at tier 6 has to be balanced somehow. And Andrew Doria is on 4 kills. One more kill, the man will have a Kraken. Now, I can't really leave my cap because if that Mutsu gets sunk by the Doria, I need to finish this cap before he can finish his. Thankfully, the Mutsu, since he is shooting him with HE, he is still resetting the man. And right here, I'm waiting for him to come out. Gotta give him a nice lead because of those slow shell velocities on the guns, and naturally, someone puts an island in my way. So there's the Implacable. I thought about giving him the rear turrets, but I thought, no, I really need to shoot this Doria. Now, the Doria does have Italian AP, which does hurt quite a lot. It's good velocity, good pins, and the Mutsu's showing a broadside. Mutsu, by the way, not a very well-armored battleship. So, no cookies are given out for what happens here when the Doria loads AP. So I get my AP out on him. Mutsu, 43k right now, alright. Andrew Doria's the lineup team freaking, pirate broadsides on each other. Mutsu's still spamming HE. This is where I realized that he's spamming HE. I would figure the man would be spamming AP. Doria gets his AP out and cleaves almost 20k off of the Mutsu in one salvo. So if the man did that with one salvo, he can do that again. And the Mutsu is still... Oh no, the Mutsu turned it now. I think he learned his lesson at least. So I get my guns lined up. Let the front turrets roll. Mutsu acknowledges that he is going to be loading AP for his next salvo, which, thank God. Doria got another AP salvo off, but thankfully managed to get the cap there. So quite the match, quite the match. One of the rare good matches now at Tier 8. Because Tier 8 gets up-tiered so much. You get put into Tier 10 games that last like 10 minutes. Or you get put as top tier, like in this case, and one side just absolutely steamrolls the other side. But this was a refreshing, good match. And it goes to show, you never know what's going to happen in this game. And it's one of the reasons why I do like this game so much. You can have matches like this that you think it's going one way, then suddenly it turns around. And one or two things could have happened there where this could have completely gone to the enemy team. And that Doria player is a really, really, really good battleship player there. Knew the strengths of his ship and made sure to use them to almost get a victory for his team. But he got a well-deserved comp from me for that. Alright guys, just want to talk about the Constellation and show you guys this very, very fun and entertaining match from my point of view at least. And again, a nice refreshing match. It's a nice close match that, again, we, for sadly enough reasons, don't see enough today. Anyway guys, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hope you're having a wonderful Monday. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.